It's showtime with America's Supercross sensation, Jeremy McGrath. This original Moto Video program is brought to you by Honda, the Supercross champion for 6 years in a row. Alpine Stars, top rider attitude. Endura, race fuel for your body. Cinesalo, sports gear for the 90s. Cone Limon, the original beer with a squeeze of lime. And Aggression Activewear. Attitude is everything.
Understand why Honda hired Jeremy McGrath.
A lot of similarities between like Ricky Johnson and Jeremy and Jean-Michel Bailey and Jeremy. Jeremy is an exceptionally gifted rider. He has a lot of naturally technical riding ability. And I also see a bit of Ricky Johnson in him to where he's kind of a showman. He kind of flows with the bike, he kind of flows with the crowd, he has a lot of ambience about him. And above that, he's a genuinely nice guy, you know, where a lot of the racers have kind of introvert, unique personalities. So I would probably draw parallels between like Rick Johnson and Jean-Michel Bailey. And as far as the aggressiveness and the caginess, I see a lot of Ricky and Jeremy. And as far as a lot of his technical ability and talent, I see a lot of Jean-Michel Bailey and Jeremy.
Damon Bradshaw, rider number 8, is holding off the rookie Jeremy McGrath. Number 3 is Mike Kiedrowski, and number 5 is last year's Orlando winner Mike LaRocco. Now, McGrath was exceeding expectations, but it didn't last. As a result of that little off-track excursion, McGrath will be passed by both Kiedrowski and Mike LaRocco. You can call it rookie nerves or whatever you want. Fact of the matter is, Jeremy let his arms get pumped up. Holding on to the Honda was a problem. Meanwhile, Damon Bradshaw, the leader, having problems of his own. He was still recovering from knee surgery. Didn't trust the knee on the track, and he was getting tired. He decided to move over and let us pass.
In Orlando, the year started off pretty good for me. We went there, I was right off of my knee surgery. And we got there, and we haven't got a chance to do as much testing as we would like to do, but you know, fortunately the bike was pretty good. I got off to a real good start. I was able to whole shot the main and was riding real well, and my physical strength wasn't quite there yet, you know, from being off as long as I had been, but I rode real well, and I ended up finishing third, and you know, I was happy with that. I led the race as long as I could, and I dropped back to second, and then once I got into third, I kind of stayed right there with the guys, so I felt real good about that race.
Kiedrowski would eventually pass Bradshaw, and LaRocco would follow suit. You have to wonder, if McGrath's arms had not pumped up, would he have been in position to take advantage of Bradshaw's fatigue? In the few laps remaining, LaRocco moved to the rear wheel of Kiedrowski. Kiedrowski bobbled, and LaRocco made the pass like he did in 1992. LaRocco came from off the pace to claim the opening round of the 1993 Supercross. When the gate dropped in the Astrodome, the whole shot went to Larry Brooks, rider number 17. Bradshaw, McGrath, Stanton, Kiedrowski, Cooper, and a host of others were close behind. In the early laps, there were several position changes, but Bradshaw made only one, who took the lead.
In Houston, it obviously went very well for us there. I got off to a good start and was able to win the race. I was just real confident. You know, I was ready to win, and you know, people kept asking me about my knee. Well, you know, how is your knee? Is your knee bothering you? And you know, and it wasn't bothering me whatsoever. And I was just tired of talking about it because I didn't want, if I was to do bad or something, I didn't want them to say, well, it's his knee surgery, you know, because it didn't have anything to do with that. I was fine, and you know, I know with the knee surgery, fine, everything went okay.
Like in the season opener in Orlando, Jeremy McGrath got a hole shot that put him close to the front of the pack. Jeff Stanton passed Jeremy, dropping him to fourth, but Jeremy was able to come back and get by Brooks to move to third. That was as close to the lead as he would get. In fact, a few laps later, the Honda rookie would fall victim to a pair of veterans, Mike Kiedrowski and Suzuki's Guy Cooper.
In Houston, I got a pretty good start, and I think lack of confidence and, you know, a little bit of nervousness made me fade to fifth. In Orlando, I finished fourth, and I think I was just basically feeling my way around. I really wasn't trying to win. I wasn't, you know, I was just trying to be, you know, consistent.
While Jeremy McGrath was being consistent, Guy Cooper was on the ragged edge. He's number 7.
Crowd really got behind me whenever I moved into third, and then whenever I passed Stanton for second. That kind of like made my day. I was pretty happy there. I had a long ways to go to catch Bradshaw. He was I think even 8 or 10 seconds ahead of me. It was quite a ways in front. And I tried a lap or two trying to go about the same speed I was going before, but I was already riding pretty sloppy. You know, there was a lot of times where my feet were flying and I wasn't hitting all the lines real good. So it was better to just hang loose, ride smooth, and be happy with the second that day.
For Guy Cooper, it was the final Supercross season in his career. The Houston Astrodome fell to Bradshaw. The first heat race at Anaheim is underway. Steve Lamson, McGrath's teammate, is in front, followed by Bradshaw and McGrath. Now watch the upcoming move Jeremy McGrath makes that will give him the lead. And we'll see it again. Bradshaw and Lamson will beat up on each other. Now the key is the instant decision Jeremy McGrath makes to change directions and grab a handful of throttle. It's the kind of move that builds confidence. It's the kind of move McGrath did not make in the opening rounds of the series. It's the kind of move you need to be a championship contender. With that move, Jeremy had arrived in the big time.
In Anaheim, press day, Jeremy was very, very relaxed and confident and riding quite well. So I was very confident in his performance there. And he ended up passing Jeff Stanton at the beginning of the race and maintained about a 3-second advantage through the entire event and ended up winning his first event, which is very impressive.
In Anaheim, I came to Anaheim thinking that I had a good chance of winning the race. And I think the most spectacular moment was probably I was coming around Jeff, I was following him, and I jumped past him, and I went on to win the race. So that was probably the greatest moment for me in my life up to that point.
The 22-year-old rider from Murrieta, California had just passed the defending Supercross champ and had done it in convincing style. He needed to maintain the pace and avoid mistakes. It's a tailor-made scenario for McGrath's fluid and precise style of riding. Skip Norfolk, McGrath's mechanic, urged the young rider on from the mechanic's signal area. He wanted Jeremy to know he was not alone on the Anaheim track. It was obvious to all that McGrath had the tools to win. The question was, would McGrath fade as he had done in the previous 2 races? The answer would come at the end of 18 more laps. Behind McGrath, Stanton maintained control of second place, while Kiedrowski held third. Bradshaw would eventually finish fourth. You can only speculate what was in the minds of the veterans. They had to be thinking, though, that this was just the beginning of a long season. The key to the championship was being around and in contention at the end. Had they known that Anaheim was the confidence booster that would signal the start of a Jeremy McGrath string of wins, they might have tried just a little bit harder.
Well, a lot of people were razzing me about fading the last 2 weeks. You know, who's to say if it's going to happen again? I feel that I'm in shape. You know, I feel the only thing that was holding me back was arm pump. And today, you know, I settled a little bit behind Jeff, and then I just went ahead and went by. And I just stayed smooth, really. You know, it was nothing special.
Next on the schedule, the Kingdome in Seattle, Washington. At this point in the series, there was no indication that any one rider would dominate the 1993 Supercross season. There was, however, a strong indication Jeremy McGrath would be a force to contend with. The indicator was McGrath's ability to get out of the gate and be one of the first riders to corner number 1. Supercross tracks are tight, narrow. Passing is extremely difficult. Thus, if a rider continually starts at the head of the pack, he has a huge advantage over those behind him. In the early going of the season, McGrath displayed an incredible quickness getting out of the gate. Seattle was no exception. The first-year Honda rider got the whole shot, and it was catch me if you can. Suzuki's Brian Swink, number 19, was up to the task. According to Jeremy, it's a continuation of a long-time rivalry.
Yeah, Jeremy's right. You know, we've been arch rivals for the last 2 years on 125s because I was a dominant guy on the East Coast. He was in the West. So every time we'd meet, you know, it would be who's going to win, you know, me or Jeremy. And it was always pretty close, I think. You know, everything was real close, and I guess he just progressed a little faster than I did. In Seattle, I got a good start this year. I started, I think, 4th, and Jeremy hole-shotted. By the time I got into 2nd, he was quite a ways out front. It took me a while to close the gap, and I knew he'd been 6th, so I knew the last few laps, you know, it'd be my time to make a pass. And with about 1 or 2 laps to go, I made a quick pass. He cut back underneath me and got back by me. And then last lap, a lapper got in my way and put a few seconds in between us, so, you know, I had to settle for 2nd.
Here's another look at the pass attempt. It appeared Swink had the perfect setup for a block pass. McGrath, though, seemed to sense what was coming. Instead of riding the berm as he had in previous laps, he hit the brakes and dove back under Brian Swink. At the finish, Jeremy McGrath with his 2nd consecutive win. Hard to tell who was the happiest, Jeremy or Skip Norfolk, Jeremy's mechanic. Perhaps
San Diego, I got off to, I think I was about a third or fourth place start, and worked past a couple riders and got into second, pretty much stayed in second the whole race. McGrath, he had a pretty good lead on me. He got off to a good start. I think he hole shotted, and I just ran in second for probably the last 10 laps of the race.
that description from Mike Kedrowski was a little on the modest side. He started well back in the pack and was only 6th at the end of the first lap. Kedrowski rode a tough race to capture runner-up honors. McGrath's ability to get off the line was the key to success.
In San Diego, I again got like about a 5th place start. Jeremy hole shotted. I seen him going out front, and I knew I had to go right away and get behind him, because if I waited, he was going to get too far ahead and there'd be no catching him. So I was riding as hard as I could, trying to get around the guys. I was moving up, and I had trouble getting around Stanton. And then by the time I did, my arms started pumping up a little bit because I was pushing so hard, and I started making some mistakes. So I just slowed down instead of crashing and settled back a little bit.
In the early going of the 1993 Supercross season, the veteran riders, those that were considered championship contenders, seemed to be unconcerned by Jeremy's performance. By their own admission, they felt the key to the championship was consistency in the early rounds. They expected Jeremy, or maybe Brian Swink, to win a race or two. What they didn't expect was a rookie to dominate. And while they were watching each other, that's exactly what McGrath was doing. His lightning-fast reflexes had put him at the head of the pack at every race. Once there, he waited for no one. While the field behind him was riding on the cautious side and sorting out positions, McGrath was giving 110%. When the positions behind him were finally sorted out, McGrath was way out front with a huge lead. To catch Jeremy McGrath at that point was to invite disaster. Riders had to ride totally on the ragged edge. Riders had to take chances. That's what they did. Jeff Stanton paid the price. Last lap, and it's showtime. Jeremy McGrath was doing what he does best, entertaining the crowd and winning races. From Southern California, the tour moved east back to the Sunshine State. The media wondered if Jeremy's Western success would be continued, or if he was a flash in the pan and his winning ways would be left in California. The veterans were also wondering. They knew Jeremy had talent. They knew he could win. What they didn't know was whether or not the first-year rider would hold up under pressure. In past years, rookies had started strong, only to fade as the season wore on. The limelight from leading any championship series is both gratifying and difficult. The more a rider wins, the less time he has to prepare. His mind is drawn away from upcoming events. Instead, he concerns himself with success of the present. Jeremy was convinced the situation was under control. He was well aware of past rookie performances and promised himself and those close to him he would avoid the instant success trap and maintain his cool. His formula was simple: keep on keeping on. In other words, approach each race as he had approached those in the early part of the season. Take it one race at a time and let the chips fall. So far, that formula had led to what was shaping up to be a great series in anyone's book. For a rookie, the success he was enjoying was astounding. The win in San Diego had brought his streak to 3 in a row. In the history of Supercross, no rookie had ever accomplished that feat. The old rookie record was 2 in a row set by Damon Bradshaw in the 1990 Supercross season. That same year, 1990, Bradshaw set the all-time win mark for first-year riders. He captured the checkered flag 5 times. With 11 races to go, including Tampa, that record too was in danger of falling to McGrath. At the Tampa venue, McGrath was chased in the early going by his teammate Jeff Stanton. You can only speculate what was running through Stanton's mind. The defending Supercross champ had spent the last 3 races chasing McGrath with no success. At Tampa, it was more of the same. He tried a little harder and lost control in a set of whoops where he was passed by Bradshaw and Kedrowski. The formula for Skip and Jeremy: attack the racetrack. The final lap, and it was showtime. In the season opener, the Florida crowd had watched a cautious and, by his own admission, nervous Jeremy McGrath slide from a front-running position back to 4th. This time around, it was an aggressive Jeremy McGrath. The assault on the record book continued. 4 in a row to set another rookie mark for consecutive wins. The all-time record for consecutive wins, 5 in a row. That record shared by Johnson and Bradshaw.
There was a statement made in the Cycle News by Jeremy that kind of gave me a little bit of motivation even to want to win Atlanta even more. And once we got there, everything went really smooth for us, and I was able to win. And I think up until then, Jeremy had won 4 races, but it was a change there, and I'm sure it was. It takes a little bit of the pressure off, but then also you want to go right back to winning.
In Atlanta, things built up pretty big. There was a lot of pressure from the media, and the magazines asking me the same question all the time, and I just didn't get a good start, and I had to catch up from way back to 4th. And track gave me a little trouble. It was pretty ruddy, but I was really relieved not to win Atlanta.
Through it all, McGrath had kept the pressure bottled up. With the Atlanta loss, it was gone. The start had been McGrath's ally all season long, but it was his downfall in Atlanta. McGrath got off the line mid-pack, while his closest rivals took the front-running positions. Damon Bradshaw moved to the lead on lap number 5. Jeff Stanton took over the runner-up spot on lap 9, while Kiedrowski slid into 3rd on lap number 10. Jeremy, meanwhile, worked through the pack to finish in the number 4 position. By the time he got there, the leaders were long gone. The win streak was halted.
After the Atlanta event, we had a break in the series, which allowed us to catch up on a little bit of testing. And let Jeremy try a few combinations, but he preferred to stick with the combination that he'd been winning with. He knew that he could win with that, and was very happy with the setting at that time. So we went into Dallas, and he was very confident there. The same attitude that carried him through the first 4 wins took him to win number 5 quite easily at Dallas.
By the time the gate dropped at Dallas, round 9 of the series, Jeremy McGrath had lost 2 in a row. Indianapolis and Daytona, where Mike Kiedrowski captured the first Supercross win in his career. McGrath finished 2nd after leading the Daytona Classic. A strong performance, but for McGrath, not strong enough. McGrath wanted more.
Yeah, in Dallas, I got off kind of a bad start. Me and Cooper kind of tangled in the first turn, and I kind of made some mistakes, but through the race I found some good lines, got around some riders fairly quick, and I think the last lap I finally got into 2nd, and that was about as far as I was going to go because McGrath had a pretty good lead by then.
The downhill slide was ended. The first-year Honda rider from Murrieta, California was back. Skip Norfolk from the mechanic signal area says it's showtime, and McGrath was headed for the all-time rookie record with his 5th win of the season. Damon Bradshaw's hometown in round 10 of the series. McGrath did not get his usual hole shot. He was close to mid-pack, but his unique riding style paid off.
Jeremy's riding style is really good. He's smooth. It's not that he's lightning fast on a Supercross track. He just don't make no mistakes. Everyone else makes 1 or 2 mistakes a lap, and you add that up over 20 laps, and that puts him 15 seconds ahead. Jeremy's riding style seems to be real fluid. He seems to work with the bike real well. Him and his mechanic obviously have a good relationship. The bike always seems to work real good, and he can make a mistake and go right back to racing. That means a whole lot to somebody, especially being at a younger age. I think when you have the experience, it helps. You know what to overcome that with. But he's also fast. He seems to adapt to the different tracks a lot better, and I think and also his outdoor seems to be getting a lot better.
Jeremy's riding style to me is a lot like Jean-Michel Bale's. Real fluid. He has the timing dialed in to a perfection.
Jeremy's riding style is a lot different than what everybody else rides. Like he's raced BMX for I don't know how many years, but it seems like you could tell that he uses some of the style of his BMX onto his motorcycle, the way he jumps it, and probably one of the best jumpers out there.
Mike Kiedrowski had stayed in the championship hunt through consistency, but in Charlotte, he dropped further off the pace.
In Charlotte, that was kind of a different track too. It was real slippery. The track actually turned out pretty good for the race, but I kind of got off to a little bit of a slow start. I think I was about 6th off the start, and started working my way up, and I think I finished right behind Stanton in third or 4th. So it was an okay race for me.
6 wins for McGrath, and another victory string was underway.
On Saturday night at Pontiac, I had a good race going. McGrath had the start, and I just wanted to hang with him. He's been riding a great year, and I just wanted to hang with him for a little while. And the whoops are hard for me to blitz through. So early on, I saw that I could jump with 2 jumps, go through the whole set of whoops. And I did that right next to McGrath, and I had the bike revving in the air. I think I scared him a little bit when I came down next to him, but it was an exciting race. I was happy to be at the front.
In Pontiac, I got a okay start, worked my way up past McGrath and all the top guys, and I was going pretty fast. And towards the middle of the race, I just started pulling away so far and didn't realize how fast I was going, and ended up crashing pretty good and hurt myself. And that race there, I think I should have won, but I'll try to win one next year.
Kedrowski won the first night of the Pontiac doubleheader. We'll watch Iron Mike take the checkered flag, then go to heat race action in Pontiac. You'll see a rare Jeremy McGrath mistake. Could have cost him the season.
Well, on the first lap of the heat race, I went down. Unfortunately, went over some bumps over there and endoed, went into some hay bales, but, I think I'll be all right. It was, I'm kind of glad I got to ride the semi.
When it comes to hole shots, there is nobody that has been any better that I have seen in 5 years than Jeremy. I mean, he is consistent. He is always near the front, and the guy has his reaction time, whether it be his reaction time or his starting technique. I mean, I have sat there and tried to see what he is doing special. I cannot see anything different than anyone else is doing, so I can only assume that it's his reaction time and the way his riding position is on the motorcycle that helps him get those starts. So, but he definitely has an advantage over the competition, and they need to, if they want to improve their positions for next year, that's going to be an area they need to work on.
In the early going of the first night of the Pontiac doubleheader, McGrath was pushed around the track. He recovered to finish second behind Kedrowski, a distant second. By recent McGrath standards, it was not a particularly good night. Couple that with the heat race crash, you might wonder how Jeremy would fare in the second night's main event. Well, Jeremy McGrath fans, not to worry. His unique ability to get off the line at the head of the pack, as Dan Bentley explained, coupled with the presence of a seasoned veteran, which he was not, put McGrath at the front of the field and turned the second night of the Pontiac doubleheader into a rout. Showtime Jeremy McGrath took win number 7 at the Silverdome and opened a 36-point lead over Kedrowski. This is heat race action from round 13 at the Hoosier Dome. With time running out in the championship chase, tempers were a little on the short side. Damon Bradshaw gets pushed into the bales just prior to turning the corner. Now that puts him back in traffic where he's hit again on top of the jump. He's all the way off the bike but manages a spectacular save. Coming up, another look at the incident, this time in slow motion. Now Bradshaw will be in the middle of the second pack of riders. He's on top of the jump, he's off his Yamaha. Bradshaw would later blame Jeremy McGrath for triggering the incident. Like I said, this late in the season, tempers are running short. Next up, a rather ungraceful get-off courtesy of Michael Craig. No harm, no foul. Craig, though, will have to go to the semi. Jeremy McGrath will take the heat race with ease, but behind him, Larry Ward will lose control of his Suzuki, jump the track, and land on Jeff Matasevich, who was in a transfer spot. Now, if you think that was bad, wait till you see what happens next. Up over the top of the finish line jump, Matasevich at the bottom gives Ward an elbow to the head. Now, Ward is going to chase Matasevich down the track, but he doesn't have the horsepower in those two skinny legs to catch him. Meanwhile, Bradshaw's caught up with McGrath and is getting a load off his chest. Jeremy says, "Sorry, Damon, next time I'll let you by." Back in the pit, Matasevich and Ward patch things up. But how about Bradshaw and McGrath?
Well, Bradshaw gets a little bit uptight, when, he says I cut him off on the start, and maybe I did a little bit, but, I would expect him to do the same thing if he hole shot at me, I'm just trying to secure my start, and, I don't want, I'm not out there to take anybody out or anything like that, but, Damon just has a short temper and a short fuse, so it goes off really quick.
There was no time to worry about Bradshaw. For the second place start, McGrath was on his way to win number 8. Impressive numbers, unbelievable for a rookie.
Jeremy, as a rookie, impressed me a lot. From the 92 season, I knew that he was going to win some races. He had some tremendous speed in 92, and I thought the pressure was going to get to him, especially after his first win. I was impressed with his first win, but after that one, he kept getting more and more, and then I'd go back home and just say, he's got the perfect attitude. It doesn't bother him. He's just having fun, and that's the way you've got to make it out here. When I look at Jeremy, I don't really see that much resemblance to me as far as his riding style. He's quite a bit different than me. One thing I do like about him is he's friendly to the folks, and that's probably about the closest thing that we have in common.
Friendly to the folks, indeed. Friendly to the competitors, not by a long shot. At the Hoosier Dome, Jeremy McGrath won his 8th race of the season. He was followed across the line by teammate Steve Lamson in second place and Yamaha's Jeff Hemming in third. His closest rival in the championship chase might wrap up the 1993 Supercross Championship. With a 52-point lead, all he had to do was beat Mike Kiedrowski regardless of where the two riders finished. Winning, of course, was on McGrath's mind. If he did that, he would tie the single-season win record of 9 set last year by Damon Bradshaw. Out of the gate, McGrath took the lead. Behind McGrath, the field was fighting for scraps. Mike Kiedrowski, who needed to beat McGrath, was in 5th place. The combination of Skip Norfolk and Jeremy McGrath, mechanic and rider, were headed for the championship.
Team Honda, I think our manager Dave Arnold has been successful in trying to match personalities of the mechanic and of the rider, somewhat similar personalities, and I think that he's successful in the fact that, you know, if you have someone that's very withdrawn and somebody that's gets excited very easily, you will have more conflicts than if someone has the same type of personality traits. And I do think it's very important to have a good relationship with your rider, and you work together, you do things together. You become trusting of each other in your comments, and you know, the rider cannot go out on that track thinking that something might fall off or break. I mean, that can't even be in his head, because if that's going to happen, then he's not going to be 100% on the track. So there has to be a mutual respect between each other, and the amount of effort that he gives me, I'm giving him 100% during the week preparing the motorcycle and at the racetrack, and I expect the rider to give me 100% during the week as far as his training and his preparation for going into that weekend.
With 2 rounds remaining in the 1993 Camel Supercross Series, Jeremy McGrath would take the checkered flag and wrap up the 1993 championship. The combination of mechanic Skip Norfolk and rider Jeremy McGrath were the best in 1993. Let's watch this final lap of victory and the celebrations that followed.
Jeremy, you've changed the sport of Supercross. On behalf of the thousands of fans that you have around the country, that which you've worked so hard for, the #1 plate. Congratulations.
Thanks a lot, Roy. You know, I'd just like to thank AMA and Camel just for giving me the chance to do this. You know, Honda's backed me all the way, and I just appreciate it, you know, a whole heck of a lot. And I hope I can do it again next year. You know, had a great season. I couldn't ask for anything more, but there's still 2 more races, and I want to win those too. So I just like to thank everyone out there who made this possible, and appreciate it.
Starting ability, I think that it's a knack that he has, and I think he's good at it, and I think he's worked on it, and I think he's got a sequence of events that all happen in a very short period of time that enable him to do that. And he did get good starts in the 125 class. He's even gotten better starts and almost dominated the starts in the 250 Supercross series. And if some of you guys just watch the tapes and study Jeremy and try to put all those technical aspects together, you ought to be able to get good starts. And if all of that doesn't come together, buy a Honda, and maybe it will.
With 2 rounds remaining in the series, the title wrapped up, McGrath turned his attention to the record book. The win in Pasadena was #9. That tied him with Damon Bradshaw for most wins of the season. Like McGrath later said, tie is like kissing your sister. It's okay, but nothing out of the ordinary. So McGrath headed for the finish line and win #10. Now coming up, a very ugly crash. Watch this. Now I'm happy to report that all involved walked away. Doug Dubach triggered the incident. He plowed into the face of a small jump, went over the bars. Cooper was next in line, and behind him came Matasevich. Kedrowski avoided the carnage by jumping over the top of it. A crash of that magnitude deserves a second look, and here it is. 1, 2, 3 riders go down. Here comes Kedrowski. Watch this. Right over the top. He passed Damon Bradshaw in the process. Kedrowski avoided that one. Keep your eye on the racetrack, though, because he didn't avoid one coming up. Kedrowski is going to go down on the last lap. We'll lose a couple of positions there. He was repassed by Bradshaw and Morocco. All eyes, though, on the newly crowned Supercross champ. 10 wins in a season, and there was still one race to go. Jason Edwards wrote the lyrics. Jason Edwards performed it a la MTV music video. We're in Las Vegas for the final round of the season. Jeremy McGrath reflects back to the start of 1993.
Everyone else's opinion of me was top 5, sometimes, top 3, 3rd. And I think my opinion of what I could do is I wanted to win. My goal was to win at least 2 or 3 Supercrosses. I had no expectations of winning the championship because I thought it was a little bit out of my reach. But as it turns out, I was leading the points halfway through the series, and that's when I finally realized that there was a very good possibility of me being the '93 Supercross champion. My confidence level still wasn't really up. It was kind of just normal. I think maybe in the first 2 races I finished where everyone else expected me to finish instead of where I really thought I could finish. I was getting a chance to feel my way around. I raced a couple races the previous year in Supercross on the East Coast, but I really don't think I was ready to win until Anaheim came around. That's when I really felt that I could win.
The final event was the Las Vegas Supercross, which was a Mickey Thompson promoted event. Jeremy seems to really like those events because they're so tight and technical. Jeremy wanted to cap the season off with a record 11 wins, which no one else had done. So he was very confident going into that event. Jeremy actually had the worst start in that race, starting around 15th position and working up to 2nd place by lap 3. He actually was right behind his teammate Jeff Stanton, and while attempting to pass Jeff in a tight right-hander, caught a hay bale and flipped over the bars, which actually cost him the win in that event.
And thus ended the 1993 Supercross season. Jeremy McGrath will finish in 9th place in that final event in Las Vegas, his worst finish of the year. Coming out on top, his teammate Jeff Stanton followed.
When Jeremy arrives to face this most difficult obstacle, he will risk his safety and attempt a vertical jump that he has never tried before. Jeremy arrives to make his first attempt at jumping the cliffs. Jeremy begins his practice jumping to prepare for his main jump of over 50 feet, traveling straight up a vertical cliff wall. But here's a collection of practice jumps earlier by Jeremy.
I'll just ride.
This is it, the moment we've all been waiting for. Jeremy stops to review the height of the cliff that he's challenged himself to jump. All the other jumps have been relatively easy for McGrath. But this 50-foot vertical wall is worth a second look. If Jeremy hit the wrong rut, or if his front wheel just doesn't hit right, McGrath could be in for some serious problems. As the pressure builds and his friends sit in the background watching in disbelief, Jeremy spends a little extra time preparing mentally for his attempt. Under normal conditions, Jeremy wouldn't attempt such a dangerous jump just days before a big race weekend. But he knows the cameras are rolling, and thousands of fans will see this stunt. This video footage will be seen by thousands of fans worldwide. He knows he has to make it. He lines himself up, starts building speed, powers up the cliff, takes to the air, jumps off the bike. Jeremy's in trouble. The bike crashes to the rock below. Jeremy has escaped with no injury, but the bike has seen better days. Let's see that again. It looks as if Jeremy didn't get enough speed to power him up high enough at the bottom of the cliff. As he jumps off the bike, he knew he was in trouble, and in order to keep safe, he sacrificed the bike for his own safety. Experience must have taught him not to hold onto the bike under those conditions. Let's see what his response was to the crash.
Oh gosh, dude, wasted my bike.
Go see it. Sit on it. See the bike? Bend it.
And with those words from some of the anticipated contenders for the 1994 Supercross Championship, the gate dropped in Orlando, Florida on the opening round, and the season was underway. For the next hour, we'll look back on the chase for the title. We'll hear from the riders that enjoyed moments of glory and all too often suffered the agony of defeat. The first whole shot of the year went to Privateer Larry Ward riding the No Lean Sizzler Restaurant Yamaha. Behind was Jeremy McGrath and his Honda teammates Doug Henry, number 8, and three-time Supercross champ Jeff Stanton, number 5. McGrath wasted no time. He flew even with Ward, gave him a look, and made the pass. For two title hopefuls, the season got off to a smashing start, literally. Swink, number 10, and Mike Kidrowski took each other out in the first lap. Neither rider was injured, but they were both out of contention. Back to the front of the pack, where Larry Ward is now in third place behind the leader McGrath and Doug Henry. Third place, though, is in jeopardy as Jeff Stanton has drawn a bead on Ward. Stanton has his mind set on Hondas running 1, 2, 3. After the race, Stanton described what happened.
I was just praying that I wouldn't end up on the ground, and I could see he was out of control, and his bike was coming at me, so I was just hoping I wouldn't end up on the ground.
Stanton's prayers were answered. By the narrowest of margins, the veteran Honda rider took control of second place. Larry Ward picked himself up and finished 17th. Meanwhile, Mike LaRocco was running a typical Mike LaRocco race. That being, start in the middle of the pack, pass everything in sight on the way to the front of the pack. That was Steve Lampson who just went by, and now he's after Doug Henry, who a few corners earlier had been passed by Stanton. No problem. And LaRocco has just disposed of one half of Team Honda. LaRocco had won the Orlando season opener 2 years running. He was out to make it 3. LaRocco quickly moved to the rear wheel of second place Jeff Stanton. In a series of jumps, LaRocco pulled alongside and appeared to have the pass made. But Stanton had the inside line and blocked LaRocco. But hey, LaRocco didn't pass half the field to settle for third. 2 corners later, he was set to try again. This time, he would get the job done. The two riders went at it side by side in a series of whoops. This time, LaRocco had the inside line, and the pass was made. A bonsai charge? Mike LaRocco said no.
I was pretty much in control. I really didn't make too many mistakes, so I knew that usually if I do ride out of my control, I make some mistakes and lose some time. So I made up time almost every lap, so I was in control and I felt really good.
With time running out, McGrath was cruising. One eye was on the lookout for the checkered flag, the other on LaRocco.
I had a pace going through the whole race, and I wasn't going to change my pace because that's when you mess up. I mean, I could see him coming, but I could tell that I had enough laps to where if I kept my same pace that I could still win the race.
Well, from Orlando, the stars of the Supercross Series packed their bags to begin the first Western swing of the season. First stop, the Houston Astrodome. The gate is about to fall on the main event. Let's watch the start. For the second race in a row, the field was led through corner number 1 by a Yamaha. This time it was the factory bike ridden by Jeff Emmy. Close behind were the Yamahas of Larry Ward in second and Michael Craig third. Those positions are about to change. Larry Ward forced Emig to the bails as he made the pass to take the lead. Emig lost his momentum and Craig moved to second place. Now back in the field, juggling positions were Kidrowski, McGrath, and LaRocco. All three had suffered poor starts. They needed to pass in wholesale lots to get to the front of the pack before the leaders got away. Of the three, McGrath was easily the most aggressive. He disposed of Kiedrowski, then went after Jeff Matasevich, rider number 21. Watch this to begin to understand McGrath's Supercross style. Unlike most other riders, McGrath does not wait for traffic to thin out. At the front or rear of the pack, McGrath rides the opening laps with nothing held back, and on occasion he takes a risk, like that move on Suzuki's Brian Swink. Coming up, another look at what could have been total disaster. McGrath, by the narrowest of margins, missed landing on Honda teammate Jeff Stanton, then collected Brian Swink. Lightning strikes in mysterious ways. In sixth place, McGrath had the leaders in sight. It was now a matter of picking off, one by one, those who stood between himself and the checkered flag. A pair of Honda teammates were the next to fall as McGrath disposed of Stanton and Steve Lamson. Jeremy McGrath, the defending Supercross champ, was on a roll. Next on the hit list, Michael Craig. Watch McGrath. He'll pull alongside. He'll look over at Michael Craig as if to say, hey, you're in my space. Then made the pass. Now in third place, McGrath is after Jeff Emig, rider number 6. Emig would prove to be a more formidable opponent. Emig, feeling the pressure of Jeremy McGrath, gaining ground behind him, picked up the pace. Emig, with McGrath in tow, moved to the rear wheel of race leader Larry Ward. Ward, for the second week in a row, was under pressure from running at the front of the pack. It was the factory Yamaha versus the privateer of Ward. Jeff Emig disposes of Larry Ward. At this point in the race, it was Jeff Emig out front, Larry Ward in second, Jeremy McGrath in third. Behind the race leaders, Mike Kiedrowski and Mike LaRocco were struggling to catch up. LaRocco catches up to Michael Craig. The two riders battle. Yamaha versus Kawasaki. Mike LaRocco moved to the inside and over the finish line jump, made the pass. Mike LaRocco was now in third place. Meanwhile, Jeremy McGrath had disposed of Larry Ward and was in another battle with Jeff Emig over the number 1 position. And with that stuff, Emig went into the Vales. Jeremy McGrath went into the lead. Mike LaRocco quickly caught to the rear wheel of Jeff Emig, and he too will make the pass to move into second place. It would again be, for the second week in a row, a Jeremy McGrath and Mike LaRocco shootout to the finish line. LaRocco again coming from out of the pack, trying to catch Jeremy McGrath. A pattern established in 1993 and a carryover into 1994. With the laps winding down, Mike LaRocco was this close, but time would run out. LaRocco would settle for second place.
Well, I felt confident for a while, then I seen Mike coming on strong, so then I had to pick up the pace again, and you know, I think that's the toughest race I've ever had to race, and the last 6 laps are pretty tough.
The last lap in Houston, the pair of riders, LaRocco and McGrath, are headed for the checkered flag. LaRocco needs a new plan to beat McGrath.
Well, I think the best thing to do is to get out in front of him, which, again, tonight I didn't do, but I definitely have the speed to do it, and, you know, I caught Jeremy towards the end of that race. I was just kind of hanging in there trying to find him, you know, a place where I could pass him, but, you know, he wasn't making any mistakes, so he made it tough.
Mike LaRocco headed for the pits while Jeremy McGrath acknowledged the cheers of the Anaheim Stadium, the site of Jeremy McGrath's first ever Supercross win. The venue was located about 50 miles from McGrath's home. Needless to say, Kiedrowski, LaRocco, and the rest of the title contenders had minimal crowd support. Watch as the field rounds corner number 1. Third week in a row, rider number 7, Mike LaRocco, is back in the pack. For LaRocco, though, the poor hole shot was the least of his problems.
Yeah, when I landed off that little triple jump after the loops, I landed real hard, and when I did land, something in the inside of my bike broke, and it just started making a lot of noise. Yeah, I felt, you know, I was in a good position that I had a chance this year to, you know, to take the title away from Jeremy. He's riding good, but I think I had the speed to do it, and, you know, it's just going to make it a lot harder this way.
It was only the third event of the season, and although Mike LaRocco maintained a positive attitude, his season had fallen apart. He would need a McGrath breakdown to pull back into title contention. At the front of the pack in Anaheim, Jeff Emig and Jeremy McGrath had passed Larry Ward. McGrath had found the right combination to pass Emig for the lead. Usually when McGrath takes the lead, it's all over, but not in Anaheim. Emig got tough and regained the point position. Behind the leaders, Jeff Stanton caught Larry Ward. His pass attempt nearly put him on the ground, but Stanton